Well, good morning, press, and good morning, the voters of South Africa. It's a great privilege to be on Constitutional Hill on the celebration of true democracy and this very important day. And it's my privilege to welcome today with me senior politician and statesman, Honourable Lekota, that's President of COPE, and Chief Activist Mmusi Maimane of One South Africa Movement. So colleagues, it's really great to be able to celebrate really a groundbreaking judgment that happened on the 11th of June last year. And those that don't know what happened that day is that the Constitutional Court ruled that part of the Electoral Act is ruled as unconstitutional. And what was the effect of that? They ruled that independent candidates can now take part in the electoral process, which is really groundbreaking. But the real groundbreaking news is not about only independent candidates standing. We know that ever since 1998, already in the transitional arrangements, we know that government was prepared to change the Electoral Act and that they wanted to bring government closer to the people. And so this landmark judgment is really landmark in the sense that it gives us as South Africans the opportunity to totally reform our electoral system. And this has been supported by Van Zyl Slabbert in 2004, by MP Pregs in 2006, and then ex-President Motlanthe 2 years ago also announced in his commission that he believes this country is ready for total electoral reform, meaning to bring government closer to the people. So it's really been, for me personally, as one of the main promoters and initiators of this process, has been a 4-year process, and it's taken 2 Concourt hearings, 3 High Court hearings, and 11 senior counsel to get to this point. And now we're at the halfway mark because the judgment of the Constitutional Court ruled that Parliament has got 2 years to change the Electoral Act. And today is a celebration of the halfway mark, and that we've got exactly 365 days left to change the Electoral Act. And I think a lot of hard work, or we all know a lot of hard work still exists, so that we can stand together as civil society to make sure power to the people and that we can bring our governments closer to us. So it's now my privilege to ask Honourable Lekota really to talk about his experiences, because he was there with the Freedom Charter days already, and what the intention of the Freedom Charter was, and what the political process is de novo, and where is that standing at the moment. Honourable Lekota.
Good morning to you fellow South Africans. I add my voice of welcome to all of you and want to underline what Dr. Michael Lewis has just said. It is important today that we must remind South Africans that when the people gathered at Kliptown at the Congress of the People, they expressed themselves as opposed to what was projected at that time, the apartheid, the system that followed thereafter. But what did they want? Very few people keep in mind that at the Congress of the People, no South African was excluded from that meeting. 5 congresses representing every person of any color got there. They were there and they said clearly that they want South Africa that they knew, that they were used to, that they lived in at that time. Because at that time, there was no Soweto, there was no Lenasia, there was no Atteridgeville, there was no place for a particular human beings of particular complexion, etc., etc. South Africans lived anywhere and everywhere. Indeed, there were no buses for this complexion or for that group and this group, etc. And therefore, the people in drafting the Freedom Charter, they said that they believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And they therefore issued an intention. Whatever the National Party was going to be trying to do, they were going to reverse that and create a South Africa that would resemble what had been developing all along since the people of this country gathered here from various areas, others from Portugal, others from Holland, some from Philippine Islands, others from India to grow sugar cane. The whole lot of us that are here in South Africa arrived here from very different areas. And the people, all of those people said, we want to belong here together. So when we drafted this constitution at CODESA, the intention of the leaders there was that everyone must be part of that meeting. And that's why, therefore, no Bantustans and all of that, everybody was brought into a meeting that represented all of us. And today, we have to say clearly that the sad thing is that we have not proceeded to implement in the implementation, to implement the Constitution, which remains very loyal to what was said at the Congress of the People. When the Constitutional Court passed its judgment and said that we must implement Section 1819 of the Constitution. Essentially what it said is that you must make sure that all the people of South Africa are able to go and represent the people. Whatever their complexion, they must be able to go and do that. And therefore that for the present Electoral Act, which now has been ruled unconstitutional, for it to go on denying people the right to represent themselves, to choose who they wanted to represent them, that was unconstitutional. Now today, it's a year since that groundbreaking judgment was made by the Constitutional Court. This is why we are here today. To remind our parliament, to remind the people of our country, the promise made to you in the Constitution, Section 18 and Section 19, it cannot be reversed. It must only be implemented. And we want it implemented. It must be implemented, because if it is not implemented, it means we have abandoned the promise the people of 1955 made at the Congress of the People to the people of South Africa. And this morning, we must revive our commitment to that. The Constitution of this country is not complete if our parliament does not implement what was promised to the people at the Congress of the People and what was promised even in the Constitution of this country. And this morning, we are happy to celebrate this first anniversary of the ruling of the Constitutional Court. But secondly, we are very happy to know that the committee that has been put in place to implement this ruling of the Constitutional Court has now completed its work, and in the next week or so it will submit to the Minister of Home Affairs, who's in charge of the implementation of the law. It will submit its work to him, and then the matter will be taken to Parliament. There's now a year left, starting today, a year left for the actual implementation of this. We must remember what President Mandela said to us when he left Parliament. He said, the people of this country are still asking themselves whether we are only here to enjoy what he called the gravy train, because we ought to have implemented the Constitution as has been written by those of us who were at CODESA, and which he had signed, and then of course he left. We must fulfill the promise made to our people, and then freedom can come. Those who want to govern must know that they must be answerable to the people of South Africa. They must be answerable to the people until the people can send people to Parliament and recall them. If those people are not doing their will, then we have not yet fulfilled what we promised the people of our country. Comrade Musi, thank you very much. Please, if you come.
Bagaetsho dumelang, and very well, thank you to our esteemed guests who are with us here, Ntate Lekota, Ntate Louis, and I want to say to fellow South Africans, you know, we come to the Concord to celebrate history. Not the constitutional history that has been set forward, but what the Constitution envisages us to do. So given the year since this judgment, as One South Africa movement, we always felt that it would be important to always live with a dictum that says, power to the people. Amandla ngawethu. To make it clear that ordinary men and women have the right to elect the people who they so deem to represent them, but equally so be able to have the administrative power in a constitutional democracy to have oversight over their municipalities and the affairs that govern them. We live in a country today where we don't have energy, no vaccines, where if you look at the state of local government, I think it would be an understatement to say local government is facing collapse. That we are on this site where the Supreme Court of our land has asked this question: given all that happens in this country, why is power still not with the people? And therefore, as One South Africa movement, we set course. I came here post the judgment, and we said we would go to communities and identify men and women who would be accountable to the people so that the people always had power. We proceeded further on to say that we're going to implement a Section 15A model, which emanates from the Electoral Act in this country that allows for residents' associations to be able to form associations in communities, contest elections, and be able to give effect not only to what was already envisaged in the previous Electoral Act, but to produce the fertile soil so that come 2024, when the laws change and constituencies are able to be on part and citizens are able to vote directly, you can then be able to say, can we directly elect people? Therefore, it is well within that context that as One South Africa movement, given the elections in 2021, that we've identified the first 10 municipalities. I say it's the first because there are many more still to come. And we are engaging associations, and we felt on the anniversary of this judgment, let us give an appetite to citizens to say more can be done if you are willing to take your power. I want to affirm our frank commitment to say you can't hold the constitution on one side and ignore it on the other. The constitution says a term of office is 5 years, therefore elections must proceed on the 27th of October this year. It cannot be delayed because that would simply be going against the constitution. Now let's give power to these first 10, and I'm excited to say we've looked at all 9 provinces, identified municipalities, and said where there are associations, let's work with them. So we look forward to working in Mfuleni, in Greater Letaba, in Enoch Mgijima, in Lepela Mkumbi, in J.S. Moroka, in Moses Kotane, Beyers Notia, Ubuntu local municipality, Cedarburg, Knysna, with many more still to come. The process behind that is to ensure that you identify associations. They will identify candidates in respective wards. They will maximize the proportional representative vote, and then subsequent to that, will be able to form governments in each of the respective municipalities. I've shared before of my trips even to a municipality like Mfuleni, where sewage is running down the streets, electricity is not being delivered, basic services are simply not there for the people. Change needs to come. The same could be said for Tshwane. The same could be said for many of these communities that we've engaged, Eastern Cape, right throughout the country. And so we are setting the groundwork to ensure that we not only give effect to the Constitutional Court judgment, but we equally so ensure that citizens can exercise their democratic right to say, amandla ngawethu. Our role in this regard still remains one where we will partner with associations, we will assist them in being able to form constitutions and to be constitutionally recognized, to ensure that they can roll out candidate nominations, ultimately ensuring that they are able to campaign, roll out a strategy, win in those communities, and focus most crucially in the registration weekend that is coming up. Because as you know, these next elections are dependent on ensuring that more and more people can register to vote. And I want to call upon young people, especially those of you who are in matric this year, grade 11 and 12 or turning 18. I want to invite you to exercise this election coming up. It's your opportunity, it's your best opportunity to pick the government of your choice and give citizens that you support the right to be able to stand for elections. And therefore, I'm calling upon students, particularly now. This is about not just your future, but your today. Because as you can see, many young people are being infected by the virus. They will wait a long time before they get vaccines in this country. And they will live in a country where 2 out of 3 young people cannot find a job. I think that is our greatest crisis that we face. And I'm saying to young people of our nation, there's an opportunity for you to do what citizens like Bontatele Kota and so many others who pioneered the way to ultimately make sure that we can have one man, one vote, that we can ensure that power truly is to the people, that the dicta mamandla ngawethu remains one that is so. This is so that the 18-year-olds who are coming up now can vote in their numbers. So we can confirm that we've also registered an independent candidates association that will hold as a regulatory body, particularly for independents across the country. Because not all independents are going to are working across the country. We need to make sure that their accountability is felt, so that we don't end up in a situation where people cannot be recalled from municipalities. We need to give, when you give power for someone to be voted in, you need to also give the same power for people to be taken out. That's why we don't need another commission. We don't need more Zondo commissions. What we really need is for citizens to be able to say, if Zweli Mkhize was accountable to a constituency, let that constituency be able to give accountability. If councillor so-and-so is in a particular constituency, let the people remove that person if they deem it so that he or she no longer represents their interests, let alone is able to advance their hopes and dreams. So fellow South Africans, I think it's an opportunity. 2021 gives us the best chance. We feel like many citizens. I know what it's like to sit at home and be in the dark without energy. For many citizens in Johannesburg to be without water. We're not far from Charlotte Maxeke, when so many people are still ferrying water just to go to hospital. These things are difficult. You have to ask yourself, what is the government in fact doing? The only response that we have, we can protest, we can march, but when it's said and done, we have to vote. And we have to remove the government if we deem it so that we can't get the services they desire. And therefore I call upon all citizens of our nation to say, let us go. And the opportunity is still there as we are engaging more communities, more municipalities, to say register an association. One South Africa movement will work with you, will identify more candidates. So at come 2021, it will be a question of truly the triumphant view of all citizens to say, we ourselves are able to gain power, to garner that power, and ultimately be able to lead in our communities. Ke a leboga. God bless South Africa.